Good morning, everyone. I want to start off by thanking our new DA, Joe Gonzalez, and his staff for being here with us this morning, along with Special Agent Special Agent in Charge, Chris Combs, from the San Antonio Field Office, FBI San Antonio Field Office. Both will give some brief remarks when we're finished, and then we will open it up for a few questions. Before I begin, I want to introduce the DA's staff, some of the DA's staff who's here with us this morning. They've been very instrumental in helping us make these arrests. The first is Judge Philip Kazin, First Assistant DA. We have Catherine Babbitt, Chief of the Major Crimes Unit. We have Melly Powers, Chief of the Family Violence Unit, and Christian Hendrickson, Chief of Staff for DA Gonzalez. This was a great first experience working with our new DA. His staff, whom I just introduced, were in constant communication with our detectives throughout this entire investigation. And they stayed with us right up until the end of the booking process. As you've all already reported, based on the affidavit, we found what we believe to be the remains of King James Davila. We recovered his body last night. His father, Christopher Davila, led us to him after we arrested him for tampering with evidence. Christopher has said that King Jay's death was an accident, and he panicked and did not call 911. Based on that information, we charged Christopher Davila with injury to a child by omission early this morning. King Jay's body is at the medical examiner's office where an autopsy will be performed, probably today, and hopefully that'll tell us more about his death. And although this wasn't the outcome we had hoped for, we're now working a death investigation. And let me stress that this is not the finish line. In fact, the hard part of the investigation is just beginning. And the investigation won't be finished until we can answer how exactly King Jay died, who knew it, and when they knew it. Because this investigation is ongoing, this is all the information I'm able to release right now. And I want to thank our law enforcement partners and our officers and detectives who worked tirelessly around the clock to get to the point where we are right now. And a special thanks to the FBI who provided so much assistance. SAC Combs is going to talk about that in a minute. And I also want to thank DA Joe Gonzalez again for his staff and their assistance. And our DA will speak as soon as the SAC is finished with his remarks. Chris?
Thank you, Chief. Well, it's a sad day for everybody. It's a sad day for the family. It's a sad day for the community that prayed that we'd find the child, and it's a sad day for law enforcement. I want to commend San Antonio Police Department for an outstanding investigation and for all the effort they put into us. We all thought when it was a apparent kidnapping that we'd be able to find the baby and bring him home safely. We worked very closely with San Antonio. We offered all the resources that we had to help, but San Antonio Police and Homicide did one heck of a job on this. I think it shows the community that there is no effort we will not take as law enforcement to find missing children. That every resource we have, we will devote to find the child and hopefully bring children back safely. Unfortunately, in this country, thousands of children go missing every year, and we work tirelessly to find them, and all law enforcement will not stop until we find them. I think it's somewhat ironic that yesterday was the 17th anniversary of the missing of Rachel Cook up in Williamson County. We continue to look for Rachel. We work as hard as we did with San Antonio Police here. We work with Williamson County Sheriff's Office to try to find Rachel, who's been gone so long. So I speak to the community. For anyone that knows anything about the King Jay investigation or about Rachel Cook, it's imperative that you come forward and help law enforcement, to call the San Antonio Police Department, to call the FBI, so we can find these children and bring them back safely. and bring the people that are abducting these children to justice. It's a pleasure to work with San Antonio. It's a pleasure to work with the chief. And anytime San Antonio needs assistance from the FBI, we will certainly provide every asset that we have. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I certainly want to echo the sentiments of the special agent. This is the very first opportunity I've had as your elected district attorney to work in collaboration with the San Antonio Police Department, and I want to acknowledge their swift and thorough investigation. This was truly a textbook investigation. They did everything that they were supposed to do. It demonstrates the dedication that these individuals have to this community. They worked around the clock. I know that because part of my staff worked around the clock. We've got some individuals standing here that have not had any sleep in the last 24 hours. But this is something that I want to acknowledge to the community. I want to commend Chief McManus and his staff, his detectives, and the rest of his department for identifying the suspect in this case that led to the ultimate arrests. We have now charged this individual, Mr. Davila, with several offenses. He's got bonds totaling over $1 million. We intend to prosecute to the fullest extent of the law. And just to give you an idea, he's currently charged with injury to a child causing serious bodily injury by omission. That's a first-degree offense. The bond is currently set at $500,000. He's also charged because he has some criminal history. He's charged with the offense of felon in possession of a weapon. In addition to that, there were drugs found in his possession at the time of the arrest. So he's also charged with possession of a controlled substance. And then he's got the original charge of tampering with evidence. So he's got a multitude of cases that he's got to deal with. And again, his bonds total over $1 million. We intend to be very active in this case. I've already assigned two of my top prosecutors, Catherine Babbitt, the chief of my major crimes division, as well as Malik Powers, who is the chief of the family violence division. She's the one person that I don't think has had sleep in the last 24 hours, and I commend members of my staff for as well collaborating with the police department. And so with that, I want to commit to the community that we're going to do everything we can to do our job and to continue to keep this community safe. Thank you very much. Chief.
Thanks, Joe. You know, the DA talked about his staff being on top of this 24/7. Well, he and I were on the phone late in the evening last night talking about this case. So he was up as well as his staff was. So we'll take any questions if you have them.
Chief, the obvious question is why not charge with capital murder?
That may come later on, but not right now.
Chief, what changed with this? The father of this child started off denying everything, saying he was a victim, and then he brings you to the body. What changed?
I think when the story started to unravel is when that broke him down. When he was in last night for questioning, and our detectives did a great job questioning him. But as this thing, and I use the term unraveling thread by thread, and I think as that happened, he weakened and figured that he's just not going to get away with it. I mean, it seemed like a strong story in the beginning to him, but as the investigation continued, that story got weaker and weaker.
Is Detective Davila cooperating at this point?
Who?
Detective. Senpai, sorry.
I don't know if she's cooperating. I don't know what she's talking to the detectives about right now, but you know, we'll see.
Chief, you mentioned this case just beginning. Any more arrests expected?
Possibly.
Is there any evidence that the mother had any knowledge that this happened?
We don't know at this point.
When you say that the story unraveled thread by thread, was it just that he had checked to make sure the car was left unlocked that night, or were there other things too that led you guys to find out that the story wasn't true?
There were a variety of things that led detectives to come to the conclusions that they did, from speaking with different individuals who may have had some type of involvement in this.
Is there any evidence that shows that the grandmother or the cousin knew about the baby being dead on Friday night when the hoax went down?
We'll find out exactly what they knew once detectives are finished talking with them.
Chief, tell me
Again, this investigation is not finished.
Chief, tell me about the phone call last night when you found out that the child was dead.
It's something that I suspected all along, and it's something that the DA and I spoke about last night when we spoke.
When did Christopher say that the body fell, or that the baby fell off of the dresser, and at what point did he bring it up?
I'm not going to go into that level of detail on this. Just, I mean, you know what he claims to have said from the affidavit, and we'll leave it at that for right now.
Chief, can you talk to us about how this case just captured the heart of San Antonio?
I think when you have any kind of child case involving harm to a child, it captures all of San Antonio's hearts. I mean, it shocks the conscience to think that someone could do this to an 8-month-old, let alone their own child.
I have a question for Special Agent Combs, who's able to talk about this. What was the role of the FBI in this investigation, and how are your agents holding up in the fact that they were working on this case and also not getting paid because of the government check?
So ours was a support role. San Antonio Police, certainly the lead by far. We work together every day in a number of task forces, so we brought a lot of our technical expertise to bear and offered everything in the tool chest of the FBI. We have a great relationship, and that's what we do. If they need something or we need something, it goes vice versa all the time. We always offer those assets up. It is true that the men and women of the FBI are not getting paid. We missed payroll today. I commend them for showing up and working so hard with San Antonio Police despite that situation. And we're professionals. We will continue to defend this city, to defend this country, and hopefully all that works out.
If I could ask the district attorney, you talked about the charges for the father. What about the rest of the family? What about his mother? What about the other people involved with this? What are their charges?
Well, we're certainly going to look to see if anybody else has any culpability, whether or not anybody else has any involvement. And if they do, we certainly will pursue that. We certainly will charge that. It's too early to tell. Everything's still on the table at this point, and we won't know until we get all the facts and we get all the information from law enforcement, but that's certainly still available.
Just to comment on, follow up on SAC Combs' remarks. He and I were on the phone the very next morning after this case broke, and talking about what type of assistance his bureau could provide, and we've worked through this till now.
Chief, can you just run us through, you mentioned early on that you had your suspicions, how it sort of started to unravel, and you were able to sort of piece everything together? Can you just run us through that?
Well, I'm going to try and be as general as I can. I really can't get into any more detail than I already have, but it started out the night when we looked at the video, and and I think everybody, to a person, felt that something was wrong with that picture. And then as we investigated further, we came upon more and more evidence. The story started to change, and people giving up different information. So, again, right from the very beginning, there was question as to whether or not this case was a legitimate kidnapping or not.
When did you realize that the rest of the family might be involved, or that some of the family might be involved?
Again, through the investigation, talking with people, the detectives, had their suspicions.
Chief, I know you said you can't go into a certain level of detail, but do you believe that Davila did the body himself, or did he use any help of family?
Can't go into that.
You got one more question?
Yes, you as command staff of the DA's office, but you also have some people with you from your division, and if you wanted to say something about their level of expertise or what they brought to the equation.
Well, they all brought their collective police experience and investigative experience to the table. It was a collective, again, it was a task force. It was a collective effort to have gotten to the point where we are today. Obviously, the detectives who were the lead in the case did most of the legwork and the groundwork and the heavy lifting in this, but everybody was involved in discussing, strategizing to get us to the point where we are today.
Chief, this guy thought he was smarter than the police. He thought he could fool you guys by making a phony story. How does that make you feel that, there's bad guys out there who think they're smarter than you?
Look, I'm not here to talk about how I feel about certain pieces of the investigation. We don't worry about those things. We do our jobs and we get to the bottom of it. in the most efficient fashion we can, seeking the most help that we can from our partners like SAC Combs and the DA's office.
What
Thank you
is
very
gonna
much.
happen with the other children? Are
Pardon?
they gonna be in
I don't
custody, child
know.
protective services?